All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Al-Anon Big Book Recovery Step Speaker Meeting. Today is May 23rd, 2026. My name is Terry Lynn. I'm a recovered Al-Anon and your moderator for this meeting. Today's meeting is a step speaker meeting, and we are very grateful to have Dayna here to do that for us. So at the end of the meeting, there will be a short period set aside for question and answer, if anyone would like, after her share. So Dayna, I'll let you take over now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Terry Lynn. Thanks, Heather, for doing this. This has been so great. Okay, so this is the final, this is a conclusion of the last three studies, last three steps. We have, up to this point, we understand our problem, that we do our thinking like the alcoholic does our drinking. The reason that the Al-Anon is powerless over alcohol, just like the alcoholic is because we're powerless over the alcoholic who's powerless over the alcohol. So here we are on the same thing that we can't control it. And oftentimes folks think, well, I don't live with an alcoholic. I don't, kind of do this. Well, I never chased anyone at a bar, what, these sort of things. And that's where it's really great. And that's a step one thing. So I don't want to spend too much time on step one. But it's incredible how this type of thinking, which is ultimately a an element of playing God, of trying to cure, manage, and control somebody. And that is a whole education in itself. That's an Al-Anon thing. Yeah, it is. It's a survival. It's a thing that we had to do in order to survive, and then it stopped working, and then we couldn't stop doing it. And it's a playing in the mind. And what does that usually look like? Usually, by the time people come here in Al-Anon, they are miserable, and it's always about somebody else. Miserable. The world's not working. Things are unfair. I don't like this person, don't like that person, fighting with this person, fighting with that person. The kids aren't this and this. Everything is unfair. It's just and there's other programs that where an alcoholic's not involved. There usually is though. And that's where we get connected to a sponsor to understand these dynamics of alcoholism. And when we get connected with someone, we get some hope. Um, and I do have to say this, uh, my life completely changed when it came to applying the big book to my Al-Anonism. And I spent a lot of years in Al-Anon, um, just not thriving. And I didn't have confidence. Just really utilized the meetings as a way to complain and get it. Work was rough. I mean, relationships were worse. The family was awful. Um, and so here we have, when we get someone for whom the problem has been solved, you get some hope. And I sure did. And then I was willing to do what she did. And that included uh, doing a fourth step, pen to paper. And we moved quickly because my mind was going to tell me that this was all, baloney real quick. And and it's amazing uh the shift from the humility where you go, I see it, and then the ego, the defenses, just walk out the door. I mean, it's that or go to work. If you go to work, I don't know about you, but most work environment is all is usually about me. It's everyone's fighting for themselves. And I mean that might be a generalization and opinion there, but that's just been my experience. And and so my point on that is that this is a different way of living, and thank goodness we have each other. This way of saying, hey, I made a mistake. Um, and and we do that regardless of what the other person, whether they're like, that's okay, or whether they're like, yeah. you're very moody. Whatever. I hope I'm making sense this morning. So, it is kind of early, but so here we go. So we do these things to get a different perspective, and we do this inventory. We learn about this aspect, and it's related to ego. They didn't talk about it as ego, selfishness, and self-centeredness. Same thing. And where other people might be able to, in the normal world, might be able to thrive on this, it breaks us down. And that's kind of cool. It's kind of cool that we're a society of people that's like, I'm gonna put this down because it's failed for me, and gonna do my best. Doesn't mean I don't fall short. Probably am gonna fall short. And that's the thing. I do fall short at certain times. And when I go, I fell short, I'm like, okay, that's okay. It's okay. We make it right. And the times of, and I'm doing a generalization here, and I will get into step 10, 11, and 12. I like to use this analogy, and I'm using recovery generally. If you want to take a deeper dive into how I got into, or how this happens, there's previous recordings, because there's definitely actions on this. It's not just theory. This comes from a result of actions. But my point is that I don't know that this is necessarily true, but I like the analogy, and we could use the analogy with walking. But from what I've been told, when you fly from Dallas to New York, that the plane is actually bouncing between coordinates, but it gets there. And it's the same thing when we're walking. When we're walking, we're actually off balance. We take a right step and then a left step. And if we just did right step, right step, right step, I mean, so my point is that there is a wavering that happens. Now, in the beginning, before recovery, we're all over the place. And then when we start to understand the workings of our mind, that's what this is about, is to understand ourselves. And then sometimes we might kind of lean over this way, and we kind of lean over, but we get there. And that is the element of not being perfect. But don't use it. We don't use that as an excuse to be crappy, because it will. The more we don't take care of things, the further we're to end up in off balance, and our step one is usually so miserable that we don't ever want to go back there. I don't. Okay, so we do this fourth, fifth step to learn to get a different perspective. And six and seven, six is this element of, not to get too far off here, but we've learned about ourselves. But here's a general concept. Hopefully it doesn't get too, here's a general concept. When we get to this step six, and we're going to always hand up our defects, but the general concept is that we know about ourselves is that I'm capable of deceiving, and I'm capable of being deceived. Like, what? That's it. I'm capable of this, and I know this. That's the ultimate around the ego and these defects, that I can absolutely, I have been deceived, and I have deceived others. That's what this comes. Doesn't mean like I've gone, hey man, so my Al-Anon mind would be like, I've never lied. Um, then I look at it to get what I want, would do things that were dishonest in the sense of peeking and, uh, trying to manipulate people to get what I want. That's deception. So we all of this is too much. All this information is like, oh gosh, this is not a program of, I'm going to say affirmations. I'm going to get on a program of changing my mind. But it's not, this is not a diet plan for our ego. It is literally like, all this is too much. I'm going to hand it up to my creator. And that's what step seven is, whatever the results. And my step seven experience was and it took some time to fully integrate this, was that the best thing that I could do to be respectful to another human being is to respect their choices. Um, and that's with people close in the program. That's with family, and that happened. It was an insight from a family member leaving this planet, which was, and that was definitely something I don't want. I didn't want. But this person did. So, or, you know, as fate would have it. And that was a matter of respecting that that's what you wanted and you have the right to that as one of God's children and as an adult on this planet. The circumstances, the choices that you decided that I didn't really want for you, you decided those and you have the right to that. There's a lot of freedom in that. So that our step 8. Now we've done some more. Um, this spiritual program is not, this could disappoint people because it is wonderful. Like at certain points of the steps, you're just like, oh my gosh. And you receive, it's like the gates have opened and all this wonderful stuff washes over you. But there are times also when it's like, okay, there are times of working. This program is not just given. It's earned. And so in the sense of there's and the reason I say that is that that's our 8 and 9 that we are showing our creator, I will do what you would have me do here. And I'm in, and I will approach those that I've hated, whatever the results, no matter how goofy I come off as, approaching someone and saying, hey, I could have done better. Um, and I am generalizing. There's actually more to an amend, and we've talked about that in the previous ones. But here's the thing. At the beginning, remember it was agreed at the beginning that we would go to any length for victory over alcohol, and that's a step 8. That's so it's alluding that all of us have hesitations at certain time where we're like, and it's like, hey, remember when you took your third step, you said, I'm going to do this. And that also means being the bigger person, in general terms. Um, because we are amongst the world, where many people will never know what the big book is. They will only know it from our demonstration. And they may not, and you know what? They probably won't understand it. Possibly. Doesn't, but we said we're going to do this anyway. And the results are wonderful. Um, Results are wonderful in the sense that it gives us new eyes to see this whole time. Things were being offered and given to me, and I could not see them because they weren't wrapped in the package that I wanted. Instead, they were so much bigger. And that is a lucky place to be because otherwise, it's putting worth on what other people, humans determine our worth, and that changes. That is finite. Trends change all the time. Whether beauty standards change all the time. Believe me, human standards change all the time of what success and beauty and blah, blah, blah is. The infinite is pretty darn consistent. I'm going to bet on that. Okay, so we went over how all different types of approaching people that we have harmed. And imagine a world where we're just focused on what people did to us. I never in my life took a moment to go, wait a second. What is it like for this person? Um, you know, clear an example is a coworker that's whispery or crappy and going, man, that person's a jerk. And to go, wait a second, let's look at, let's consider, well, one, they don't have a program. Let's consider what their existence is like and how I might come off towards them. and to have compassion rather than constantly feeling like, the world, this person's crappy, that person's crappy, because there's crappy people, they're sick. But I guess my point there is to take a perspective, look from a different perspective. And what that does, it breaks the illusion of victimhood. And, you know, some people choose to fight that. And this is not a program of being a doormat. It's a program of doing the next right thing. And it's amazing that our Creator does so much more than what we could do. And that's part of we cease fighting anything or anyone. That comes down our step 10. So it lands us perfectly. So let's start with this. And I do want to say again, up to this point, this is not just given, it's earned. And but we don't do it with those expectations, but we have to do the work. Um, and hopefully my job is to say it's worth it. And there will be times when we have no idea what's up. There will be times when we will be less inspired than other times. There will be times when other responsibilities are pulling at us and we can only do, what we can. But it's worth it. The ebbs and flows. You will get there if you're willing to do it. Okay. So when we talk about step 10, this thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commence this way of living as we have cleaned up the past. We have entered the world of the spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. That is not a small thing in living in the world of the spirit. So we report to something different that others do. So, you know, it, so the boss is the ultimate boss. And that's why it might seem pretty strange the things that we do because it's outside of a human boss. It's the realm of the spirit. And when they say our function is to grow in understanding and is to grow in understanding and effectiveness, and here's the caveat: this is not an overnight matter. It should continue for a lifetime. It should, if we have fully understood our problem. And and here's a thing that if we are here willing to do this, which it's 7:45 for me. It's an early Saturday morning. I'm seeing ladies that are here. I wasn't expecting anyone. I'm like, wow, that's an example of being willing to do something and to be in this thing. So my point on that, it's not a small thing when we have been convinced and that and there's nothing to gain from me to be like, oh, I'm so glad you're into this thing. The point of that is that you don't have to suffer. You get to go up rather than this twirling down. Because the Al-Anon illness is, in my experience, because I have other outside issues, which that wasn't a fun thing, but the battle of the mind, and also the battle of good intentions. Um, because we can run on that all day long. Well, I'm just trying to help. Or, that and things, usually the indication that this sneaky Al-Anon control, manage, and cure is going on is things just aren't flowing and I'm getting gripey and I'm looking at other people going, why can't that person do blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, oh, here it is. Starting to point at other people and getting gripey and getting, all right, there's something going on here. It should continue for a lifetime. And again, it should if you fully understand that you're screwed. And some of us have to kind of have to figure that out. And when these crop up, This is a 10 step. When these crop up, I didn't know about this beforehand. Before, when I was in the rooms of Al-Anon, I did not know this. I didn't understand it. And I am so glad today. Oh my gosh, I am so glad today that I have this. Because there's no way that I'd be able to get outside of the obsession of other people, places, of what everyone's doing. There's no way I would ever be able to not be into controlling and managing. Um, there's no way. And you know what's also really cool about this too? In this process, when or in this recovery, when you know you have someone, it's good to have a sponsor that keeps you accountable. And when you know the workings of your mind and times when you have fallen short, or oh gosh, I probably need to spend more time with my creator before I open my mouth. When you know these things, it also gives you the clarity of where you're not going to compromise. um, Before this program, didn't know where that was. Was often compromising to be liked, and then on the other return, exploding because I was constantly minimizing uh, in order to make everyone pleased. And that was kind of a family thing. You compromise, and then you explode. So I was definitely raised by Rager. So anyway, okay. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Okay. And love and tolerance of others is our code. So this is not a theory, and that's what's really great is that I could totally BS you and go, you should just love everybody. Be kind. I mean, there's plenty of ads. Be kind. Okay. And then in my delusional mind, oh, I'm kind, I'm kind. And in my Al-Anon, that's not true. Because nobody believes it, and I don't understand why no one's believing my story that I'm kind and tolerant. So my point is that these are actions that we take. So when they crop up, the things that we learned about ourselves, when that egoic thing creeps up, the selfishness, the dishonesty, and the fear too, the fear of what other people think, or I've upset someone, and oh my gosh, that is so. And here's something when and I certainly have those times when I have felt intimidated by and that's not the other person's fault. I just don't like this person because I feel intimidated when I'm around them or whatever, or fearful of what they think of me because I respect them or for whatever reason I think I don't know, but that's not that person's fault. That you have a weird thing around them. And so again, this is a mirror of what is this reflecting about me. So whenever these things crop up, you know what? I realize I'm in some fear. Um, and it's wild. I don't know. I could never select how there would be one person that I really wanted to like me. I don't know why. Um, and then of course, they wouldn't, I am immediately putting my, um, making them a god. Um, you know, and sometimes it's been like, yeah, I just want to be accepted by this person for whatever reason. Um, and that's not their fault. But to be able to identify like, oh, that's some fear. Um, and fear comes down to this, and it makes sense. Fear is I'm afraid I'm not going to get what I want and lose something that I have. I'm afraid I'm not going to be one of the cool kids. And I can admit that today. Before I wouldn't admit that. But oh my gosh, I'm not one of the cool kids. So, we hand that up to our creator. And okay, so we identify. So there's four parts here, actually five parts. You identify when the defect crops up. Um, you connect with your creator immediately. And here again, going back to action steps, connecting with my creator is, sometimes we're running into life, driving, whatever, and this is immediately like, hey, but sometimes I might need a little bit more. And connecting with the creator in general, I might just have a, hey, especially when I'm doing a 10 step, because it's a boom, 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 boom. Um, but if I'm really focused on, um, things I can't control, I'm going to spend more time with my creator. And that could be quiet time, could mean taking a walk, being out, listening to a meeting, and definitely helping up. This is kind of blurring the lines, but definitely helping others is definitely a time of spending time with Creator too. Well, that's kind of yes and no. There are times that it's time to be quiet and to center, and helping others is also part of that. But we're not quite there yet. So, jumping ahead. So we identify the defect. We invite God ask God to remove them. So that's removing is literally like, okay, this is a delusional thought. Take it. Or it's an overwhelming thought. The thing about the Al-Anon illness, it seems like, and I would feel this in relationships. Thank goodness I'm not in these relationships now because it's a tangle. When the Al-Anon mind would take over, it felt like if you've ever seen like cats get into it. I used to live where there are a bunch of wild cats and like and they're just like brawling. And that's what Al-Anon is like, tangling in this thing of like trying to figure out the situation and or trying to get someone to like me or see my side of it or to gain something I don't even know. And it's like graveling. It's just like walk away from it and go, you know, especially here's the thing, especially when someone is totally, you know, dumping everything on you. And it's like, and you're trying to, no, I meant that, you're just fighting in this thing of trying to, and it's just like, just walk away from it. Um, that was probably the most powerful thing in Al-Anon, to be like, you know what? I'm just going to step away. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if you're going to be in my life, or this is going to work out, or you think I'm crazy. Fine. I'm walking out. I mean, and what I mean by that, it's not literally because every situation is stepping away from that grappling. No, you, and it's just like, okay, I'm not going to fight in this situation. And that's the thing that brings us here is that was a way of life of that constant, like, well, you did this, you did that grappling. I'm not going to do that anymore. I don't do that. I am actually in a relationship. We don't do that stuff. And that was a way of life for me. Thank goodness. Okay. I probably digressed, and forgive me, folks. Okay. So we identify it. We ask God to remove it, invite God into the situation. Um, and then we discuss it with someone immediately. That's my sponsor. If I can't get a hold of my sponsor, I have her sponsor. Um, Keep it in the mix. I know some people have different directions with their sponsors on that. Um, there's certainly folks I go, hey, if you can't get a hold of me, and we have this modern way of communicating. You can text, call, email. And sometimes there's times when we're really in it and we know I need to talk to somebody. Um, Now that's not going to be every time, because we're probably going to hear the same thing over and over. Probably because we're dealing with ourselves, doing the same patterns over and over. So probably going to hear the same thing to the same thing that's bugging us from our sponsors. So, so the point is to call yourself out, being so, and here's one of it's like, I'm being selfish. They're just not doing what I want them to do. And that's like, oh. No, I want to prove a point. They're just not doing what you want them to do. The world done. Whatever the situation. The this you don't like, that they're just not doing what you want. Bummer, man. I was hoping there was more of a psychological thing I could dig in there. Uh, nope, the world is just not running the way you think it should. A lot could be, we can do a lot more things when we know that's kind of what this is about. Um, so we make amends quickly if we've harmed anyone. And I was kind of, when I was talking about the fourth step amends, I was kind of bleeding that with the 10th step amends. Because the fourth step or fifth step amends is an official, even if we feel like we have done nothing to this person, the whole damn point is we've done all this in our brain. We still approach them. That's, because we harmed them by having a resentment towards them. So my point is I'm differentiating the different types of amends. So this one, from an inventory, we are looking at how we've been showing up in life, and we do this eyeball to eyeball with someone. A 10-step amends is kind of is of course if we've harmed someone, we do this immediately. Um, I have called people on this with the intention of, hey, when I see you, I will do this face to face. Because it's the immediate. Like when we realize this, we go, oh, that was not cool. And we approach and we talk about it with someone immediately. Um, that's our sponsor, 10 step it and approach someone if we've harmed them. And so here's the whole thing. And then we resolutely turn our attention to someone we can help. Now, I know I'm kind of blurring the lines that kind of happen, not really blurring, it kind of becomes automatic, um, this way of living. But when my mind's just really wrapped up in other people, and what they're doing or not doing, I'm going to spend time helping others. Of course, there's a quiet time of spend. There are quiet times of just centering and cultivating this relationship with our Creator, and there's helping others as well. Which, if I have used that too as a matter of spending time with my Creator, it makes sense. Um, and makes sense in the way of man, this illness is all over me today, so I'm going to go knock on some doors and spend some time with other people, and my creator of course is with me on that one. um so love and tolerance of others is our code. um what this means for us, and sometimes Al-Anons go, okay, so I'm meant to be a doormat. No, no, it's when we step out of the growling and trying to solve a situation, we get to see how. I'm going to use an example. I'm going to use it. So let me use an example here. And every situation is a little different. This is just how I was taught when things, because in the workplace, we work with spiritually sick people. Believe me, most people are not going to know the big, it's just true. We may be the only demonstration that they come across of the big book. So, working with spiritually sick people. So, there have been many times where I'm like, this is so unfair to my sponsor. This is so unfair. This person's so sick. I am not being treated, blah, 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 blah. And I want to go to HR. I'm going to fight this. And what I have found is that living by my principles, instead of going to the Almighty, and again, every situation's different. I just want to show how powerful this program is. That I could go into this graveling and fighting this person and da 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 for, this and that. But instead, I have plenty to do with my program. So, literally, this has happened so many times. I followed my program instead, left it up to God, and then God totally takes care of that person that was it was very clear that they were sick and unfair. And I mean, it's like God takes care of it much better than I can. And so, my example of that is when we get in the fighting and that sort of thing. It 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 has worked so much better that I have this program to focus on and helping others, and it's pretty amazing that when I get out of the way, that usually God God is a much better enforcer than I am, and every time, just every time. So I hope that's I don't know. I hope that's helpful. So love of tolerance of others, what it means is I'm going to do things without the intention of changing people. Because that sort of situation I am intending to change. And that's just, I have let that go. Um, Changing others, I'm just not good at that. And the hope and the delusion of that gets me very sick. So, love and tolerance. Tolerance means I'm acting in a way that I'm not, my intention is not because I can't change you. So I'm going to stay out of it and let God handle it because God does a much better job. Now, we cease fighting anything or anyone. Wonderful promises, even alcohol, for by this time sanity will have returned and will seldom be interested in our compulsive thinking or liquor. If tempted, so we're thinking about liquor and stuff. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. You know, we recoil so we don't have to get into the heat anymore. Don't have to do that. I don't have to be right. That's that grappling. It's trying to be right. I mean, it's literally, if you've heard cats like, they just, I don't, and part of that just stepping out and going, and here's the other thing. I'm not stepping out as a way to, I've done that too, where I'm like, you know what, I'm leaving as a way to punish people. And my motive is fine. It's not even that. It's like, you may be right. There is a tremendous amount of humility, especially when someone is calling you a purple elephant and you're like, I am not. But then you go, you may be right. Maybe I am. God bless you. Goodbye. I'm just gonna step out of this. Um, and so I don't have to go into the hot flame for what? To be right, to be proven right. God does such a better job than I do. So you may be right. Maybe I'm a horrible son of a bitch. Okay. Uh, you're not my God. I got that over here. And yeah, that's the thing. The level of accountability these principles do. You do become empowered in the sense of, I'm not going to argue with you, but I'm not going to compromise either. So, we react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically, and we will see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. Do you see the difference there? I'm not fighting for this. I'm doing the work, and that requires a level of humility, sometimes stronger than some days stronger than others, and so that's the other part of humility is like, okay, wait. Um, because there have been times going back to being deceived and also being deceptive. I know that about myself. So I do check. Wait a second. Um, and that's part of it just comes. So that is the miracle of it. We're not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation in general. We feel as though we've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We haven't even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We're neither cocky nor afraid. That's the important thing. We're not cocky. And if we are, there's the ego. And there's a law of the universe. When we act on that ego, it will come back when we're living in the realm of the spirit. It just does. So I'm not here to say don't get your ego involved. because we usually we don't even have the ability to do that for ourselves. Our program does. We show up and do this, and in return, our world is taken care of. That is our experience. That's how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. Once again, there is an element of earning. And what I mean by that is cultivating this relationship with our creator, spending quiet time with in the morning and the evening to check in and to go, okay, where am I here? And to give all of this stuff to God, all of it. Cliff used to say, "What part of all do you not understand?" When I was just complaining. And if I'm complaining a lot, okay, there's something going on. Maybe I need to. There have been times when it's like, you know what? Maybe I need to step back here and let others take care of these responsibility because other people can. I don't have to do it all because I'm getting tired and I'm getting cranky. So that's an indication of I'm starting to think that I'm the only one that can do things around here, and that's just not true. That's another form of playing God. It is easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. There have been many times when the laurels were rested on, and very lucky that it didn't send me out. We are headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe. You know what's a subtle foe for me? Being right. Being right. The subtle foe. Because then I'm going to get into that going to get into that fight. And I don't do that today. Um, what we have is a daily reprieve, and that's the truth, contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. I didn't think maintenance was in there because on the other page it says so this is not maintenance. The term, you should probably look this up. Okay, I think I have 15 minutes here. Um, and I'll stop. I think I'm stopping it. Okay, I have 10 minutes. All right. Maintenance. I do want to clarify when people say these are the maintenance steps. This is what no, we don't maintain. We grow in understanding and effectiveness. The way that they're using this word is to maintain our spiritual growth, so that we continue to be effective. So we're not just I'm just gonna coast by here. No, we're meant to. We can grow. Even, you know, we can continue to grow. We should, because if we don't grow, we go. All right. Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into all of our actions. Every day. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These thoughts must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It's proper use of the will. So we get our will back. So if you get your will back, we want to be responsible with it because it can be taken away. And that is where things come to us in a beautiful way, but we don't take credit for it. Um, it's a blessing, and it's important to go, wait a second, this is a lot different than it was day one. And to be grateful, to have a grateful heart, because what I have today was not Dana given. It was my creator given. And so that's the proper use of the will. So, resting on the laurels, and I've certainly had that thought run through of well, I did this, so I'm good. Meh. We don't stay full on yesterday's protein shake. So you have to eat every day, right? Yes. I mean, you could probably last for, you know, you could probably, so let's say you had, meals yesterday. You could probably continue on. I think how long, my first thought is maybe a month. Uh, well, without water and food. I don't know, so you see my point here? So you might be able, you're going to last a few days, at least, maybe a month, maybe more, I don't know, until you start to cannibalize. And that is exactly what happens in the program. So we continue. And that's when things are, because it's not as if we don't go through challenging things. We do. But we have a program of action to apply to it. But my point on that is just being able to have another day where you have the ability to um, feed yourself and nourish yourself for another day. And you know exactly what you're meant to do for today is not a small thing. That is huge. It's something that not everybody gets to have. So we measure our the things that we measure successes in a different way. Is that gonna, I don't know, is that gonna gain social media followers based on I got to wake up today and I know exactly what I'm supposed to do and I will do it to the best of my ability? That's a very wealthy thing. Yeah, some people might not believe that, but I promise you that's a very, very wealthy thing. You can try the alternative, see how that goes. So, we are moving into how we maintain how we grow, um, in understanding of effectiveness. And so it's our job. They say our job is to do that. And we have to continue to live by this. And guess what they get into? They get into prayer and meditation. And due to time, I won't spend a lot, but that's very important. They give us three, and they start with at night when we retire at night. We start at that. Then we have upon awakening, and then we have throughout the day. And in that alignment, we are able to relax and take it easy. It's a practice. So we usually conclude a period of meditation with prayer, with a prayer that we be shown throughout the day what our next step is to be, that we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. We ask especially for freedom from self-will. That's our ego and stuff. That's trying to control and manage. And are careful to make no request for ourselves only. We may ask for ourselves, however, if others will be helped. We are careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. The reason many of us have wasted a lot of time doing that and it doesn't work, and you can easily see why. The reason why is because it gets us into delusional thinking that if this happens, I will be okay. And so they're saying, don't get too wrapped up in that. So if I'm like, please, I want to get this job. Please help me get this job. If it doesn't work out, then it's like, it it's already decided. Your job's just to do the next right thing. That's the attitude here. Um, I hope this works out. I hope that this person heals. I hope, you know, of course, well, that's praying for other people, of course, but or I hope I get this and that, and it may or may not happen. And I don't know if you do this, but let's see if I've had several versions of books. I don't know if it's in this one. And usually I scribble up so much that I give it to other people. I don't think it's in this one. It's in the other one that I've given away. But I love to use this. I think it sums it up. Cliff used to do this. I know people are very familiar. When I'm taking people through the third step, and I know we're on the 11th step, but we'll get into the 12th step here. I'll say to people, why don't you find a blank space in the front of your big book? I'd like for you to write this down. And whoever I'm working with, we'll call her Sue. I'll say, okay, Sue, write this, write this down in the front of your book. Dear Sue, you're never going to have your way again as long as you live. Love, God. But there's a PS. If you follow the directions in this book, you will thank me for it one day at a time. And then I have them write, I'm willing to go at any length because we're taking our third step, and they sign and date it. Yeah. So those that know Cliff know that. And I still think it's wonderful. Okay, so now we have and here's the thing. Okay, so as we go through the day, we pause when agitated and doubtful and ask for the right thought or action. We constantly remind ourselves we are no longer running the show and humbly say to ourselves many times, Thy will, not mine, be done. We are then in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. That kind of escalates, doesn't it? We get excited, I'm afraid, I'm angry, and then I'm worrying, and now I'm in self-pity, and then I do something stupid. That's where it's like, shoot. So we want to avoid that because it's inefficient, and then we have to stop and go, hey, you know what? I made a mistake. So, but it's okay. We make mistakes. But we try not to because we become more efficient and going, I'm not going to jump in that little fray of being right, um, or being liked, um, even being in the brain of someone else. Man, I used to do that a lot. Being in the brain of what do they think of me? And what they're telling us, that's selfish because it's really not your business. Um, we're not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves. It works. It really does. Shortest paragraph in the book. So we Al-Anons are undisciplined. We're undisciplined when it comes to thinking and worrying about everybody and everything. So we let God discipline us in the simple way we've just outlined, but this is not all. There's action and more action. Faith without works is dead. That is mentioned in the book on page 14, 76, and 88. So now we're going to get into, I'm going to sum up this. We're ending in like 5 minutes, right? Or 6 minutes. Okay. So working with others. This chapter is so wonderful, and I'm going to have to sum up, but I'll read this first part because we've been talking about we. Now it's going to be you. Working with others, very different than it doesn't say going to meetings. This is not a meeting program, although we study the book and we're part of a fellowship and we do service. But this is very different. Working with others. Practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity. That's a big word. Immunity. Not a meeting, not other people. It's immunity from our thinking. So nothing so much ensures immunity from thinking as intensive work with other Al-Anons. It works when other activities fail. Have things failed for you? Carry this message to other Al-Anons. You can help when no one else can, and that is the absolute truth. You can secure their confidence when others fail. Remember, they're very ill. As we work, having that's the thing when you start to work with others, because this is a mind thing. And it's wild when you have been there that you can talk to someone and you can hear it immediately. And you're like, oh, there's a little thing running around in your head there. You can hear it. So doesn't it make sense that you can help other folks like this better than anyone else can? Now, other people are probably they know the Al-Anon codependent thing going on. They just don't know the name and how to solve it. So they just kind of go, this is where they kind of go, ugh. Um, there's a part in, I think it's in How It Works, where it talks about, oh yeah, it is with the inventory. And in the inventory, it talks about every business does one. If not, no one would buy their services. And that's the thing. Oftentimes in Al-Anon, we don't even know that we're doing it, But what we do know is we have this store, metaphorically, and nobody wants to buy what we have. So it's because there's moldy bread, there's spoiled milk, and we think it's fine. Yeah, just scrape it off, and they're like, I don't want what you have. Okay, are we there? So, are we open up for questions? Oh no, no. Okay. So, working with others, I just want to say life's going to take on a new meaning. They're going to talk about how to work with the family. They're going to talk about the moods people have and that we match the moods. They're going to talk about working with religious people. They're going to tell us exactly how to outline the program. They're going to tell us what to do with people that aren't interested. They're going to tell us that we don't have a monopoly on God. They're going to tell us that we need to be the Good Samaritan. They're also going to go into the spouses, and there's a whole chapter on that. They're going to talk about the promises. Um, and then finally, we would not, it talks about the spirit of intolerance might repel Al-Anons, whose lives could have been saved had it not been for such stupidity. And that's, kind of got geared towards the codependence. Even we would not even do the cause of temperate thinking any good, for not one thinker in the thousands likes to be told anything about thinking by one who hates it. Someday, so in conclusion here, after all of our problems were of our own making. Our thinking was only a symptom. Besides, we have stopped fighting anything or anyone. We have to. Everything turns out to be a symbol of our inner malady or our inner solution, and that's working with others. And then we will go further into, oh, I didn't even think about going through the chapter to wives. Sorry about that. We do go into the chapter to wives, which talks about spouses, and that's very helpful for us to go into a further detail. Then we go into the chapter, and hopefully other speakers will do this. We go into the chapter of the family afterwards, then we go into employers, and then we do the vision for you, which goes into the community, how we approach those, the vision for you. So I will stop there, and thanks everyone for uh, the opportunity to carry the message. So, do we have some questions or comments at this point?
Thank you very much, Dana. Yeah, so does anyone have questions for Dana?
I have a question.
Thanks,
Yes.
Heather.
Yeah. Um, first of all, I have a comment. I have a much better understanding of the steps after going through it with you. But I have a question for the meditation
hmm
part.
hmm
Is there any certain way to do meditation?
Well, that's a great question, and you will probably be evolving. So, first thing, there's been a couple of ways when I'm first starting to work with someone, and I take it from my sponsor, just even reading. Um, Even starting with 83 going through all to 105 is a quiet time, um so we can start there. And I've had people do that during their hour with God after, because sometimes it's like, my mind is just all over the place. Then my sponsor had me do this. It's not in the book, but the point is that it's a suggestion. I would close my eyes for 10 minutes in the morning, focusing between my eyebrow. There's all sorts of research on that, in the way of getting your mind to center, and repeating, "Speak to me, Lord, for I'm listening." And doing that at night as well, as a way to clear the mind and to start exercising in that way. Then there are all sorts of other techniques out there, and I've taken classes on it. And continue to evolve. And the point of it is to have this quiet time to get the monkey mind, to get on the other side of it, to just let those words and everything just pass. All the worries, all the concerns and focusing on the breath. So there are, and they talk about that there's all sorts of techniques, but that is those that are just beginning, that's a place to start. And then as you tap into this relationship with your higher power, you're going to be directed in ways that will help expand it. Some people go to church. That's fine. That's a great place too. I took some classes and read some books to expand the technique. Today, I do a chant to keep my mind focused, and it's always a bit of a fight because it's always like I have all this I got to do this and this and this. There's a bit of a fight, uh, but my life is so much better when I take that time to connect with my creator.
That was awesome and helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the question.
Okay. Well, that was great, Dana.
Thank you, Terry Lynn.
Okay. So our seventh tradition, every group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. This group does not have a payment structure in place and currently has no overhead expenses. If you would like to fulfill Tradition 7, please send contributions directly to the Al-Anon World Service Office by visiting alanon.org. For questions about this meeting, or if you're looking for a sponsor, please send emails to alanonbigbookrecovery@gmail.com. Recordings can be accessed on YouTube by typing @Al-Anon Step Speaker in the YouTube search box, or on Spotify at Al-Anon Step Speaker Series. If you're interested in other Al-Anon meetings that follow the Big Book, please visit alanonbigbooksolutiongroup.org. Now let's have a moment of silence for the Al-Anon who still suffers, followed by the Lord's Prayer, or a prayer of your own choosing, said in silence. Who loves us and keeps us sane. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Amen.